Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind.
I was born into a family with a father that wouldn't let us use the word can't. I mean, there was no excuse for not succeeding. You just weren't allowed to quit. And I know Shaun has got that trait more than I do.
You know where that came from. Rolls downhill and I'm at the bottom of the hill.
There was six of us in the family, plus my mother and dad, so there was 8 of us in a 800 square foot house. And we had no running water, no electricity. It was pretty basic. And we all worked on the farm. We went to a one-room country school 5 miles from here called Saddle Mary School. We went there with a horse and buggy in the summertime and a horse and sleigh in the wintertime. Both of us left the farm when we went to Luther College in Regina. I remember getting up the first morning and listening to this sound, and it sounded like somebody was frying eggs, only to discover that it was somebody in the shower. And I had never seen a shower before. I lived in one of those little rooms at Luther College for 4 years.
Where the dorms were over here, right?
As a dormitory student. No, that was the girls' dorm. We weren't allowed to go over there, Shaun. To be honest with you, at Luther, I was probably could have been chosen as the most likely to fail, and maybe I was, and they just didn't tell me. But when I think back on it now, I realize that school probably had more influence on me than I realized at the time. After I graduated, I went back to the farm, and my father passed away suddenly after about 6 months. We were really looking for off-farm income in the wintertime to sort of supplement the farm. That's how I got involved in sales.
When I was a kid, I thought, again, it was pretty cool, my dad, because he sold everything back before Brandt, right? I remember coming home one time, and in my room, he had all these hockey stickers. He was a decal salesman, and I thought it was the coolest thing, and I'm stuck all over my mirrors. The other time he came home and he had duck decoys, and he thought he's going to, make his next bunch of money selling duck decoys.
Yeah, Gavin and I were involved in a few things, and we succeeded quite well for a time, until we didn't.
We didn't live in Regina, we lived in another center, and my mom at the time had 3 waitress jobs, and anyway, we decided it was time to come home. We didn't have enough money for the 3 tickets, and so Mom stayed out there till she got paid again. And the story that I remember is that we had basically a jar of mustard and a loaf of bread, and really that's what we had to eat until Mom got paid.
We were just trying to survive and do what Gavin wanted to do, what he liked to do, He always tried to improve himself.
I was fortunate enough to have a wife that understood that, I needed to work long hours, especially at the start.
But somewhat understood.
Somewhat understood, yeah.
He couldn't have got by without me.
But, we had very humble beginnings. And so there's a natural tendency to remember what that was like. And
I guess the mustard sandwiches didn't hurt either, Dad, eh?
Yeah. A friend of mine told me that there was this little company in Regina called Brandt Machine and Manufacturing, and they were looking for a salesperson to travel northwest Saskatchewan. And they must have been desperate because they hired me right on the spot. So I headed out in the country and started calling on, existing customers and new customers, and really, for the first time, applying some of the things I had learned in sales, but selling real, tangible products.
Taught him how to be successful in the trenching business. You start at the top and work your way down. And everything I taught him, he did backwards. He started from the bottom and worked his way up.
Things were always progressing. He moved up from salesman to sales manager and moved up eventually to buying it. And I remember every year was better than last year. That's not through luck. That's through hard work and vision and desire.
In our family, we were talking about business all the time. I wanted to be in sales too, I knew that, because that's what my dad did. So I started going to university when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. It was Gavin Semple University, and over the years, I've gone to my father for all kinds of advice on how to do things, and some of it I listened to and some of it I didn't. Yeah, Shaun started right out of high school at 17 years old.
And I probably gave him the toughest job in the business.
And he gave me a pickup truck and the report and said, go see what you can bring in for non-ag manufacturing. And
most people in the company didn't think he would be successful at it, and I was questioning it myself because we hadn't done it before.
if I looked down the list and I said, hey, I remember this company, IPSCO, and I remember driving by it.
I made the trip out here as we're driving out here right now, and it was a 4 o'clock on a Friday, and really not the best time to be making sales calls, and just decided to go up to security and make a call.
Really didn't know anything about the business, didn't know really anything about sales, other than you had to call on people and you had to go see what you could do.
I was fortunate that day that he said, you know, it's funny you called on us today. Today's the last day for our machine shop and we're gonna outsource everything.
I wanted to do it. I made a promise to the customer that I could make it happen. Over time, the customer tested us, you know, and gave us some pretty terrible jobs off the start, but all of a sudden I kept coming back, and next thing you know, we kept getting some good jobs.
I remember the first one we did was the slitter knives, and they asked us to sharpen them, which was almost impossible to sharpen them, just to see whether or not we could do it or not. Of course, the young guy, you say, absolutely, we can do anything. When you came back with a $100 order, it was a big order. It was a big order back then, yeah, that's for sure.
So he went out and he had some real success with that role, and then he moved on to other roles throughout the company, and he's excelled at all of them.
And he was always pushing the boundaries. As far as entrepreneurialism is concerned, I don't know anyone better at it than Shaun.
Even back then when we were selling machine shop services and trenchers and golf course equipment, and the agricultural equipment represented a large percentage of what we did. So we were really dependent on agriculture, and we sort of followed the cycles.
And so I said to Dad, we really need to specialize the sales department. And so we segmented the sales department. And that was the first time I really started to realize what's possible when you really focus on something.
And as soon as we did that, they began to flourish.
The very first one that we specialized in was our custom machining and manufacturing, which is now today called Brandt Engineered Products Division. The second move we did, which was Brandt Industrial Turf Equipment Division, which now became eventually the Brandt Tractor, it was moved over onto 840 Winnipeg Street.
I said, this is our building that we want to be in, which was a $200,000 building. And
you know, it was a fairly big number at the time. And of course, I was really focused at that time on making sure that the income exceeded the outgo.
You know, every entrepreneur takes risks. You have to be prepared to take risks if you're going to succeed as an entrepreneur. But you have to know what the limit of your risks are.
people kind of laughed at us a little bit when we first started because, of course, everybody had bigger shops than we had. But we started to realize a little bit that people don't buy facilities, people buy people. And if you can build a support structure that supports the customer, the facility is important, but it comes second. Because you can have a great asset, anybody can go buy a building, but you can't buy a good business.
At the time we looked at the John Deere business, Shaun was managing what we called our industrial turf dealership, and Shaun read the ad in the paper from John Deere looking for a dealer.
I always dreamed of, well, geez, what could we do if we had a major line? You know, what kind of volume could we do? What kind of commission check could I get? But in our ag division, it was pretty tough times, and unfortunately we went through a bit of a union battle at the time, and we were fortunate that the employees had decided to decertify the union. I said to Dad, you know, now's our time to do this, and of course we're all licking our wounds a little bit, but in good times, opportunities don't come along. It's really in the bad times that the opportunities come along.
Positives to a decline in the economy too.
Absolutely.
Positives to, you know, they don't look like positives at the time.
No, but the stronger get stronger and the weaker get gone.
The thing that's amazing to me about Shaun is he's fearless, or at least it seems to me he's fearless. You know, and that was a trait that I saw in him as a kid. When he had an idea about this is the way we need to do it, he just did it.
Shaun is not easy to persuade not to do something when he decides he wants to do it, and that was the biggest decision that was ever made at Brandt, and you know, has led to more success than we anticipated at the time.
Part of being successful and our success is just being hooked up with a company that was growing. John Deere was expanding the product line, and that expansion of the product line was no different getting hooked up with a customer. As they grew, so did we.
We dreamed of getting into a big line and really having more of a footprint than just one dealership in Regina. And so Saskatoon was the second dealership in our chain of dealerships that we have today. We thought this building was going to be way too big for us. And, you know, it was an older building. We had to renovate it, but we quickly outgrew that. Sales bullpen were in the back, and it was pretty humble beginnings. Yeah, pretty humble beginnings. 2 stores. We were supposed to do a total of $8 million out of 2 stores, $4 million a store, and $4 million a store was not a lot of volume to support the operation at the time. But
if you have a dream or you have a vision, you have to commit and take chances.
Well,
and it's got to be calculated risks, but the Saskatoon market, and particularly northern Saskatchewan, has been really, really good for us, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been very good for us. One of our best dealerships in the country.
You know, we expanded fairly rapidly across the West, but there were times also that were discouraging in that process. Success is not a ladder that you climb one rung after another sometimes. It's 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
With diversity comes challenges, and challenges are, you know, trying to stay focused and trying to stay on your track. And so with that, you need to have really good people that are winning while we're winning. Dad used to say when I was a kid that, you know, true success comes from when other people around you become successful while you're becoming successful.
After 5 o'clock, when the people leave the buildings, all you've got left is real estate. But it's during the day when the people are in the business that they make the difference.
Brandt is just a vehicle, and as long as the vehicle's taking them to where they want to go, they'll stay in that vehicle.
Every month our employees get a Thanks a Billion gift. We just introduced the Brandt Wellness Program, but it's investing in employees.
We really don't have a secret recipe other than believe in people and get people working for you and loving it along the way. And when they love it along the way and they succeed in life, you'll succeed in life.
I think compensation is really important, and what it does is align the goals of the individuals with the goals of the company. Generally speaking, we have a small base salary relative to the industry, but when you add incentives, the total compensation exceeds the industry. So everyone becomes an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneurs typically are people that are very confident in what they can do. They're very goal-oriented, and they like incentives. The incentive-based compensation turns them into being an owner, and it becomes their business. And when it becomes their business, it really becomes amazing at what they can achieve.
And we always had contests among the salespeople and rewarded them with not only dollars, but with recognition. Find out what their goals were, try and show them, on Shaun's point, how Brandt could be the vehicle to take them where they wanted to go.
So make sure your people, and especially your superstars, know where they're going and that Brandt is providing that opportunity for them. Or else you lose your superstars, you lose your business. We have a lot of people, obviously, at Brandt that work awful hard every day. We're no different. We're hands-on in the operations.
If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you're not going to do it on 40 hours a week. Not in our experience.
In addition to being preoccupied with the big picture, needs to understand what's happening at the front lines.
We like to know what's going on and to kind of walk around and ask questions, and sometimes that's the best way to find out what's really happening. What are we on track for?
This is where we measure our on-time delivery to our customers. So we recognize that we need to get the product to our customers when they say they need it.
When it comes to the buildings, I mean, we spend a lot of time. I mean, this is part of our brand, right? This is part of the way we operate. If you have good workspaces, it really helps the culture, helps the attitude and all of that. It's just much different when you see our old building, which you know was not up to standard, and this has really helped.
Gavin also could have moved to greener pastures, you know, other places in the world where maybe things would be easier for him as a businessman, but he stayed here because he's bonded with Saskatchewan, he's bonded with this part of the world. You know, he did things on his own terms.
Our roots are deep here. You can take the boy from the farm, but not the farm from the boy kind of thing. We've invested a lot here. We've been very successful here. We determined early on that if we wanted to build a major business in Saskatchewan, we needed to be diversified, that we needed to export our products.
The products that we were selling in Saskatchewan, we knew had an application in Alberta, Manitoba, other parts of Canada, and in the northern USA. And so when we entered those markets and began to have success, it reconfirmed that this was a strategy that we really needed to explore. I think about some of the international trips to Russia and Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, in pursuit of success for our business.
What led us outside the province was really kind of the pullback in the province. It was really to grow our business. With that, it's really allowed us to bring new money outside of Saskatchewan back to Saskatchewan.
We needed to bring that wealth back here. And it's worked very well for us, so I have absolutely no regrets.
If you're going to have a great business, you need to have great customers. And we are also fortunate to have great employees. And so I think those are two of the big benefits we've seen about doing business right here in Saskatchewan.
The entire province is the best it's ever been from my perspective, and nothing is ever 100% or 100% positive. But by and large, it's been a great place to establish and expand the business.
Raise a family.
And raise a family, yeah.
In terms of balance, I mean, there has to be balance in your home life too.
Right.
It can't be all work, it can't be all drudgery, because you can burn yourself out and burn out your marriage and your partnership.
We have a very close family out there, and obviously family is first, but we've always had a saying in our family that if you take care of the business will take care of your family.
We've had lots of family in the business. My daughter Juanita is our manager of recruitment.
I have 3 sons, 2 that work at Brandt now. My oldest son is our vice president of engineering. They need to go prove themselves, and they need to have a little hunger and a little starvation once in a while, and they get paid in the same way I got paid when I started. They have to go eat what they kill.
With any family, you're going to have disagreements from time to time, and we have disagreements that we can have a very vigorous debate or argument, if you want to call it that, over a particular issue. When the meeting is done, that's left in the room. I got into selling cosmetics in 1968, and it was that company that introduced me to the Earl Nightingale Lead the Field program.
Earl Nightingale was a fellow who had a daily radio broadcast where he would have 5 or 8 minute snippets on success principles, positive thinking, goal setting, forward planning, etc., etc.
I was like a sponge, just wanting to learn all I could learn about why are some people so successful and others aren't. I listened to those programs hundreds of times and have studied it ever since. And I guess for the first time started to believe in myself.
My dad wasn't really a sports guy, but he used to say to me when I was a little kid on the field, he said, "Shaun, just go out there and pick out the best person on the field and do what they do, just do it better." That's what we've tried to do in business. So when we approach an opportunity, and if you have belief that you can improve the business model, then you just need to go and do it. You got to set goals. What do you want to do, and why do you want to do it, and how are you going to do it?
Anybody can do what we did here. There's nothing special about the Semples. There's nothing special about it, what we've done. Anybody can be successful. Biggest thing is they have to believe it. The strangest secret is that we become what we think about.
Now, success is not the result of making money. Making money is the result of success. No man can get rich himself unless he enriches others. Believe and succeed.
He wasn't real secure in himself, and he'd come to me and he'd say, "What do you think? You think I can do this?" And I would say, "Of course you can. There's nothing to it. You can do that." And of course, I really didn't think he could. I'm sorry.
Whenever I get too big for my britches, my wife reminds me that my 1970 income was $35 in total.
What is the tax rate on $35?
Ever since then, I haven't complained about paying taxes, right? Well, it's not really true.